So let us start with a minute of silence. I think by the time, maybe if we are joined by more people. And okay. So let's just sit back and we can close our eyes if we want. We'll do a simple breathing silence. So you can just sit back and relax, and I will guide you. And we'll just observe our breath simply. Breathing in, I know that I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know that I'm breathing out. Breathing in, my breath grows deep. Breathing out, my breath goes slowly. Aware of my body, I breathe in, relaxing my body, I breathe out. Calming my body, I breathe in. Caring for my body, I breathe out. Smiling to my body, I breathe in. Easing my body, I breathe out. Smiling to my body, I breathe in. Releasing the tension in my body, I breathe out. Feeling joyful to be alive, I breathe in. Feeling happy, I breathe out. Dwelling in the present moment, I breathe in. Enjoying the present moment, I breathe out. Aware of my posture, I breathe in. Enjoying the stability, I breathe out. As we are aware of our breath, we can start observing sensations in the different parts of our body. Starting from the toe, lower legs, knees, thighs. You observe a whole leg and feel completely relaxed. Stomach, lower back, chest, upper back, shoulders, upper arms, elbows, lower arms, hands, observe any sensations in our entire hands and deeply relax. Now we move to our neck, chin, lips, nose, eyes, ears, the entire face, our head. Let us breathe into it and feel light and completely relaxed. From the bottom of our feet to the top of our heads. Let us observe and feel the relaxation. Let us be with our breath for a moment. And as we feel more grounded and present, slowly, when we feel like, we can bring our attention to the outer world. And when we are ready, we can simply open our eyes. Welcome. Welcome, all of you. How are you feeling?
Yeah, this was a very nice breather and just relaxed.
I'm glad.
Thank you.
Great. If all of you are in a position to open your cameras, that will be great. So inviting you to do so. If your bandwidth allows, it'll be nice to see all of you. And I want to welcome you all to Share It. I know that we all have met except Manoshi. So Manoshi, Share It is a platform that we have. CreateNet has a platform called Share It for educators. And this particular series of Share It is to look at and have conversations with people who have been into a practice of sustainability and have been working deeply towards it, and have conversations with them. And as much as we learn, we can also share with others around us. And the intention of this space is that we continuously learn together and grow together and also take some of those practices back to our real life. So I welcome you and everyone here. If I don't know in what space you are, but it'll be nice if you'd like to introduce yourself and share what brings you here. You could also write if it'll be nice if you could share what brings
I
you
can
here.
share.
Okay.
So I am part of CreateNet. I work with Mohita and Jasmeet and Astha. And sometime in the last couple of months, we've been contemplating on exploring, understanding, and learning better about our environment, sustainability, earth conscious, and these aspects and value systems that are being thrown around casually these days. But we wanted to take it up more seriously. So that's why I'm here as an exploration, which is both personal as well as professional, to learn a little more, to apply a little more in my daily practices beyond what I'm currently doing. So, hi Ankit, I heard your introduction and I read your introduction also that Mohita shared on the group. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation that we are going to have today.
Yeah, same here. Thank you.
Thanks, Simran. We can also share if there's some things that we have started in the past few weeks. We've been meeting for a while now. So I like open this space for anyone to share and write also. So maybe for the next minute, if anyone would like to share something that they've learned over the past few weeks of our conversations and taken it ahead, it'll be nice. Thanks, Manoshi. So just need sharing that she's here because environment is a subject that bothers her a lot. And the more that she can do about it, the more collectives we can form, the better. For me personally, this space has been very enlightening because it's been exciting also because I've been getting to hear and talk to a lot of people and just realizing how earth conscious and community conscious people are around me. And there's so much to learn and grow. So been very, feeling very grateful, and also small little changes that I'm trying at my home. Like I've just ordered a composter. So yeah. Hi.
Awesome.
Thank you. Okay, so let's start for today. I've shared a brief description about Ankit, and we also, some of us did meet Ankit last week. Ankit would have shared his introduction with all of you. I'm not sure if he did, but I'll just share briefly about him. So, welcome, first of all, Ankit. Thank you for coming here and sharing your thoughts.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So Ankit से मेरी last week बात हुई थी, and it was a very interesting conversation. It went for an hour. And Ankit shared that he calls himself a Banjara with a B, a small B. And I asked him what. So he shared that small B stands for humility. And
It reminds me of that of being humble. Like it reminds me.
yeah, and beautifully he shared about how he changed his career paths, and from working in an IT business of his own, he started to explore rural villages, meeting people, and doing a lot of social work and community work in, I think, Maharashtra. And also, he started working in Telangana and Assam also. So, other than that, he's also worked in Uttarakhand. Is that right, Ankit?
Yeah, presently we work in Assam and Uttarakhand.
Right. And a lot of projects which are related to livelihood, which are related to rural health, sanitation, menstruation, lot of community work he's been on to. And another very interesting thing that I found while conversing with him is that he's taken these what do I say, cycle trips and foot. Uh, he's traveled across the country on feet more than 2,000 kilometers. And also along with Adivasis and community people without money and without any gadgets. So I was very curious to understand from Ankit ki what inspired him, what motivated him. And he was sharing a little about his inner quest and his own seeking in terms of finding his own purpose for life. And very beautifully, he shared about ideas on balance, on simplicity and compassion, which we all find difficult to live in our day-to-day lives. But I found that Ankit's been practicing it for some time. So, well, I would like to invite you, Ankit, to share more about these ideas, about your own journey. And yeah, we would love to ask you more questions post that.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining. And I was just reflecting on the nature of this dialogue, like this conversation. And today there was another session of mine which was at 11 a.m. In the morning. And I've been fascinated to understand how structures push us, or inspire us, or motivate us. So what I was looking at both the sessions, the 11 a.m. session and the session right now, is that structurally, I mean, both are conversations, both are about talking to each other and on a certain topic. But structurally, essentially, this session has a component inbuilt which talks about silence, talks about relaxing, and flowing very freely instead of trying to finish something. So when I'm actually in this kind of a structure, I feel very relaxed. I feel like, okay, now I'm like, I can just like flow, and there is nothing to achieve in itself, but rather to just open up few avenues. Maybe some word might be an opener for somebody. Some kind of experience which I might have had might inspire somebody, or may allow them to have a dialogue with somebody else. So so the nature of structures is what has always fascinated me during my journey so far. It's not been a very long journey in itself, in the sense that I think there are people who I meet who have had 20 years of experience and journeys, and 30 years also. And I feel like I'm a toddler in front of that, like maybe 8, 9 years, things like that. I think the only transition what I would say is that if I would have continued my path, which was set for me not by fate but by the society, uh, was about computer sciences and sitting inside a glass building and coding for somebody who I don't know, and then receiving some papers. I mean, nowadays it's more digital, but in a way money I'm talking about. And when I was like in that phase where I was having my business and everything, and I I used to question myself that, is this what I'm born for? So I used to always ask this, that is this what I'm born for? And I used to be like, okay, so I can now code and all, and maybe I will learn more, and I will then sit inside a building, and I could imagine my life next 20 years in a flash, in that moment, like when I was just passed out college and everything, because I saw that life also. Like, my hometown is Dehradun, which is, uh, you can say, not a big place, not a very small place also. So that has given me a very good outlook of what life could be. Because when I started living in Pune, Pune felt a little bit like Dehradun. But then when Pune started expanding, I realized that, okay, now this is not my cup of tea. So probably I always remain very connected to the idea of small place as such, because that gave a certain warmth, in terms of community, in terms of uh, knowing people, and also in terms of being able to hold yourself, like, okay, that where you are, what is who you are in that sense. And when I started living a bit in Mumbai also, and then Pune started growing very fast, I was like, okay, who I am, like I'm just running around with some things and trying to catch up to something all the time. So it was never stopping. So fortunately, I never planned for anything. It just happened that, during college, we started going to some villages randomly, very randomly. Like, I used to watch Swades. There was a movie by Shah Rukh Khan, which I might have watched almost 200 times, I suppose. So that movie, I just knew that it has been shot in a taluka in Maharashtra, though they show UP in that movie. So me and a friend just decided that, okay, let's go to Vai taluka, because Vai was that taluka, and we just landed there, and we didn't even know any Marathi or anything. So we reached a village, because we knew that, going to a chai wala would tell us like where we can go. So we actually randomly asked people that we want to go to a village which we never knew about. And we went, and uh, I remember this was my first instance of, actually, when we say minimal or simple or anything. I was studying in Pune, and I was studying in a college, Symbiosis, which, by its name is like not so minimal. And I remember going with this bus, and I still remember that it's a flash, I have it stored. I'm trying to sit in that bus, but it was like a village bus, so people from the villages were returning, with their material and everything. And we said, we want to go to Gundewadi. Now this village name was given to us, and it sounded like Gundewadi. So, and we were like, okay, let's go. And we uh, got out of the bus like around 7:30 p.m. And with the bus, both the lights also went, so the only lights which were there when we came out of the bus was of the bus, and the bus went and the light also went. So we were suddenly standing in dark, and we are like, okay, where is the village, because we couldn't see anything. So we randomly went into that village, because we did a toss, we tossed a coin, and we, decided that let's go to the right side. This is how we decided the direction, but what I noticed that night, in the house of ex Sarpanch, who called us, inside, because we were not able to find anybody. We didn't know anybody. So he called us. And so he was talking to us like, a normal person would. What was starking was the mother of that person, you know, was constantly on to feeding us. So she was sometime bringing some nimbu pani, then she will bring tea, then she will bring some snacks, then she will bring. So she like bringing, and she's always trying to feed us. So I was like, we don't know them. We just came like that. They didn't know anything about our arrival, and the mother is so happy feeding us something. So what I noticed was the happiness, which was the joy which was there, even while she was, what we call in a very urban sense is, okay, giving, disturbing me, but being disturbed, she was happy. So it was like a very starking thing for me to notice in my early graduation years. And I remember these events very clearly because I think they formed the basis of what happened, later on. Like I realized that people, human beings, irrespective of their geographical position or, wherever they might be based, they are essentially, they can remain joyful, like in any state. It's more like what I mentioned in the beginning, the structure of a certain thing creates different vibrations, which changes people's, um, like the way they appear to us or anything. But inside, people want to live with that happiness, that joyfulness, and or sometimes and that compassion. Like, okay, somebody is there, and that mother was so happy. So uh, if I look at my journey, where I have Mohita was mentioning about walking and cycling and all of that. So they happened largely because when I started traveling a lot, and I had traveled to many villages during my social work. I think social work is not a cult, but it's more of a tool for me to actually do what humanity needs, not like as if, it is like making another apartment, which will be housing certain kind of people, but rather it's a tool. And this tool has allowed me a lot of things, actually. It has allowed me to really, really sit with people and share their lives, not in a way where I look like from an external perspective, but being a part of the family, which is really, uh, I think I'm fortunate to have that, because today a lot of my friends come from the villages across multiple states, and a lot of my friends come from different cities across India. So if you look at the way I receive phone calls, it's like, one person is talking about something very drastically different and one person is talking very drastically different. So I'm able to notice a very common thread in between somewhere, of what are the commonalities and what are the challenges people are facing. So that gives me a little bit of that, I think, experience on and off. Yeah, so as Mohita was mentioning, I have walked 2,000 kilometers plus, and over 3,000 kilometers of cycling I have done. Larger intention of these journeys was to just know people. So there was no intention of any record. There was no intention of any kind of achievement or political messaging. In fact, the thing what I wanted to do was um, the thing which I wanted to do was basically become, in our old there is a system, I don't know how to explain it, but it was called being a bhikshuk. Now it's not bhikari in that today's modern sense. So भिक्षुक का मुझे एक philosophical base बहुत नजर आता है, which is being in a position where your ego, where you the you which is there inside you is challenged, and then we realize that, okay, so I don't have anything now, and a large part of my identity comes from who I know. And if I am if I'm in like Tamil Nadu, in the middle of any village which I don't know, and that journey which happened from Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and many other states like that, I don't know anybody, and I don't have a phone to connect with also, and there is nothing, like there's no money, so I cannot emphasize who I have become in my life. Now I am just a human being right now, right there, so people can ignore me because I'm nothing. But what I saw was absolutely and entirely opposite. I saw that people were really, really glad to connect with this idea of approaching from being nothing. Like very often we think, that if I go with a VIP vehicle having that sirens, from childhood I used to see those sirens, pew, pew, and everybody I think was very fascinated ki one day we will have this siren on our car, like people, like my friends and all have been. And I was always like, no, I don't want this, because this like I was always the opposite. So people wanted to do engineering and I did BCA MCA, because I never wanted to do what everybody was doing. I mean, I don't know, I had just this kind of a very going opposite side. And so I wanted to see what happens when you are no VIP, when you are no, like there is nothing around you, and then how you survive. So that kind of minimalism, if we can call it minimalism, or the word minimalism, I will also talk about later where it came from particularly, but it's actually very ingrained in our core life. Maybe today we are talking from different cities, Bangalore, Mumbai and all this, but if you look at the nature of our growth, even in this landmass, I won't say country particularly, but in this entire region, we as people have been not very um, uh, not very like talking about like as if we are not promoting ourselves as a brand. We have never been that. Like if you look at in our own houses also, more or less, or maybe our grandparents, most of them have had a very rural insight. Maybe they were not growing up in rural, or maybe they were, but most of us have had that rural connection somewhere. So that we are aware of, like unlike a child who sees a fruit or a vegetable growing up in a mall, who thinks that it grows in a mall nowadays, is happening now. But most of us, at least in my age, I have grown watching, I have seen those landline appearing after many years of application. I've seen those black and white small TVs coming. And so we have this realization that, you know, it wasn't that we were not able to live with that. I think I was very, very happy in my childhood living with small TV, Shaktiman, and a landline phone. I did not feel the need to desperately have a phone in my hand all the time touching my skin, or I did not feel the need of a heater giving me heat all the time. Even in there was a lot of cold even in those days. I remember, like in the winters, as it is now. There was a lot of heat also. I remember, but maybe we had little protection from uh, trees around, more trees, I would say, more grass, more soil, which we have converted more into cement now. Cement is like the new soil now, at least in cities, major urban places. So I think there are a lot of such things, but I'm trying to come to a point where maybe it would also be beneficial for us to have an interaction. Um, yeah, so Mohita, so is this the right time to change should we go into a commenting or a question mode, or?
Sure. If you would like to share anything more, that'll also be okay. But we can also get people's thoughts, comments, questions. Once.
So I think I will just maybe close this part with this one thing, that a lot of answers which people in urban are finding, or like really striving to find today, are not really very far from them, actually, to be honest. Because when I was in Pune, a lot of my answers were there just 40 kilometers away from me. And physically, that part gave me, like maybe there is a lot of people are not able to travel physically a lot. But 40 kilometers, 30 kilometers, 50 kilometers, outside your city, the truth stands there. But most of the people start going a lot into what is being written or what is being shown, or what is being seen. So maybe personal observation in silence gives us a lot of ability to introspect about our own lives, which I did, I think, during my college days and after that. Yeah, thank you. So maybe we can start taking other, like letting other people also speak.
Any one of us can go ahead and share any thoughts or questions that we have for Ankit as of now.
Hi, Mohita. I had dropped off for a couple of minutes, so I don't have context. Can you please quickly share?
No, so Ankit had shared a little about his journey. So
Right.
we were at a point where Ankit wanted this to be more of a conversation. So
Okay.
any thoughts or any questions?
If
Would
if there is nothing, then I can also continue. Okay, I think there's a lot of chats actually around. Yeah, I just noticed.
yeah, we can
Uh,
take things from the chat, Ankit.
Yeah, so
Just
so
meet
one
for the question. I'll share the
yeah.
questions. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
So there's one. I shared what is minimalism according to you, and Jasmeet has shared what is the intent or plan going forward for you.
Um, I I see where you are coming from. Most likely, you're trying to ask me, what we call as a vision or ambition or stuff like that, right? Um, I so one very interesting thing which happened, and this is with my colleague. So my colleague is also this like very free kind of a person. He comes from the village in one of the villages in Assam where I live and work. And most of the time he does not have enough money. Like, I mean, none of us have actually in that space. So we very often joke, about this, that we say that 4 दिन की जिंदगी है और ये मेरा चौथा दिन है. And when we go with that approach, not that we want to die, but we go with this approach that what will you do if it is your last day? So we work like that, we feel like that, we have fun like that. And of course, every day we are blessed enough to continue the next day. And I like to live with that blessing, where I see that if my life is being extended every new day, uh, despite a lot of people not so healthy at times, having so many issues, having a lot of challenges, then I see that as a responsibility being entrusted with to me for the day I see. And then, plans and intentions are meant for the organizations which we run. So we do make some plans in that. We do have some kind of smaller goals to achieve. As a person, I am very much looking at what is happening and what is the present moment. Uh, and I won't lie that, we don't think that, okay, 4 days later, I have to go there. Of course, we all do that. Even the person being in the present moment absolutely will know that they are having to go somewhere. It's just that, if something you plan and that bothers you, if it is not happening, like for example, you plan a trip to Goa or Manali or anywhere, and that plan fails due to something, and a lot of people are very sad and very very like they go into a certain kind of low state of life. Then somewhere you are not the owner of the plan is owning you. So to be free of that state where you can plan, you can have goals. Like one of my goals is to be able to reach 1 lakh villages, not in India only, or maybe anywhere, like overall, 1 lakh villages. I don't count actually, to be honest. Like I don't even know right now. There have been a lot of villages by now. Maybe a lot actually has happened, but the idea of this goal uh, is to be not so militant about it. It's just to leave it to the universe. Like, I just speak it out to the universe and I leave it, and then I forget actually. And I mean, there are a lot of magical things which I can share with you a little later, which has happened in my life, which I did not know how it happened. But when I drop it and I just go in my own things and I do, one day suddenly those things happen. So what happens with me in that moment is I am very joyful when it happens. So for example, I will talk more in terms of, let's say, buying something. So somebody will plan, like, okay, we have to buy a 43-inch television because we are bored of the 23 or whatever. I don't know the numbers because I don't have a TV. So 30-inch, let's say 32-inch television. So now you planning for it and now you are saving for it. And then, one day you saved whatever amount, 40,000, I don't know, 30,000, 40,000. And by the time you saved that amount, the price shoots up. So whether this bothers you or whether that lets you stay calm, okay, fine, like, okay, this price has gone up, so we'll either save more or we'll drop the plan. Now, with that approach, life becomes very simple because you are not attached with the material, or you are not even attached with the thought of the material. You are actually not letting the material control you. But if it is to arrive in your life, then it shall arrive. I mean, you saved the money, you bought it. Simple. It's not as if, many people will think that I will preach anti-consumerism. To be honest, neither anti-consumerism nor pro-consumerism can work with human beings. Anything anti-pro, both may not work. Because as human beings, sometimes you feel like having Maggi. Sometimes, or most of the times, you feel like having dal, sambar, chawal. Now, to keep a message in your head that this is, I have to be anti this, then it is like a burden in your head. And then when you live with that burden, it is very heavy to live, Okay, I have to be always like, whenever I see Maggi, I will be like, oh my God. And then I will start preaching to other people also. This is what I used to do actually in my own life few years ago when I took to veganism for a year. And and the story of veganism for a year also is connected to that, because when I saw that a lot of my friends in Pune were doing it, I also joined in. I was like, yeah, this looks good, like not bad. And today also I don't call it bad. It's just that I have chosen to not be it. Then I used to travel a lot in villages and everywhere, and then I had to tell them, so whoever would come to me with a cup of tea or with a biscuit or with anything, I would be like, no, I can't have this. No, I can't have this. No, I can't have this. So I used to see that now, I'm creating a certain class of mine where people have to serve me in that, which I couldn't explain to them because, having 2 cows in a home, I couldn't explain to them how they are guilty of the vegan world because they had 2 cows and it was like family to them. Now I cannot go and tell you, okay, you are guilty because you are, using the milk or doing that. And I think even in a session like this, which is 1 hour, 2 hours, I am really not able to exactly explain everything of the experiences which have been there for several years, where I've observed people very or I would say use this, like, observed people in silence. That has given me a lot more than I think being in such sessions. So I would really recommend everybody to actually, if you cannot observe anything in Bangalore or Mumbai, because there is, I think, I mean, I can empathize with that, but you can actually go a little out and just observe people doing stuff. And maybe, I've observed people, jaise wo bakri charane ja raha hai. I've observed those animals actually for like, just lying down and observing the animal, what the animal is doing. So those experiences are really hold a lot of answers actually to this complex world of where we are stuck actually. And I know I'm not giving direct answers because that's not my job. I think there are a lot of expert people around who can give expert answers to what they should not buy, what they should do, all that. My role is probably to just punch in the hole where our philosophical understanding should lie. And yeah. So I think I answered more than required. The plan. I saw so Vijayji commenting on cement is the new soil, concrete is the new jungle. Yeah. What is minimalism? You question, Mohita, or was that a question?
Yes. What do you mean by minimalism or simple living that you
Yeah.
shared?
So actually, if you look at it, it's a borrowed word. So growing up in my house, I did not know that I was living in minimalism, like in Dehradun. My family was minimalistic. I don't say call it now. Maybe they are not too much they are not consuming, but they are still medium range, somewhere. But largely when I traveled and lived with a lot of people in rural, there is no need to preach anybody minimalism because there is no base of that, there is no basis. So what I actually was reflecting one day about the basis of minimalism. So I saw that, or I realized that the word minimalism appeared because overconsumption appeared or overconsumption happened. So the word minimalism came. So these are like extremes. So if you look at extremes, one is overconsumption, another is minimalism. Similarly, one is overconsumption of meat. And what is the other extreme is veganism. I know a lot of vegan friends would have a lot of things. I'm not going into what is right and wrong. What I'm trying to say is that you need to bring out one extreme because of another extreme. And what I saw in rural particularly is that people are eating twice or thrice or maybe twice a week some non-veg. Not even twice actually. Some people eat twice in a month, or sometimes my parents are eating once in a month. Being from a Bengali background, they eat once or twice or thrice a month. Unlike a lot of people think that Bengalis eat like every day. And I don't eat since my fourth standard. Like I just left non-veg, not vegan particularly, but vegetarian. So what I noticed is if I tell these people that you become vegan, I cannot really do that because I don't have a basis for that. Like I cannot tell them that you eat so much, you are guilty of doing something wrong, that you need to do this. So a lot of people live like this kind of balance, where they don't see we don't try to impact something so much that another extreme is required. Yeah. So my idea is that a balance which heals us, which does not puts us in a certain cult or a dogma or a belief system, where we can experience different joys of life. Of course, whatever we feel like, I mean, we have to really feel. I mean, one of the reasons we have so much of issues is actually we are and this is very much connected to urban, I think, is that we are losing touch with ourselves. Like we are losing touch with ourselves in the sense, one is the mind, one is the heart, but we know that we have a mind. We are not the mind. And we also know that we have a heart. We are not the heart. So there is something which is separate from the heart and mind. So that self we are slowly getting very far off from there. And that is happening with due to a lot of reasons. And as I mentioned in the beginning, the structure of our urban life, or any life in general, life, industrial life, I would call it industrial life more than urban or rural. The structure of this industrial life is such that it pushes you in these conditions, because goal is to profit. I mean, of course, maybe for you and me, the idea is not profit, but most of us live in this system, right? We see a very few people who, what do we call this? Off grid. That off grid also happens actually. We have been seeing off grid also in the US and Europe, or maybe more in the US, because they are so much extremely into that. And we are going there. We are not far away from there. Actually, a lot of West exists here now. So we can't say that the West is that and East is this. So when I say the West, it is largely the West in terms of the idea of West, not even the culture. The culture is good in many ways also, but the idea of the West, the consumption patterns and everything. So a lot of West is here also. So yeah, I lost my thought actually in that. Sorry. Yeah. So my way of looking at things is that we have to allow ourselves to connect with ourselves, our self, which we are losing. And when we are connected to that, I think we won't need any words also. We won't need the word sustainability. If you just think about it, all these words, when did they come up? They came up maybe 10 years, 15 years ago, not more than that. And why did these words come up? Before that, why were these words not there actually? Are we getting more aware, or are we actually harming more and then getting aware? So we have to look at that perspective also. Yeah, I think a lot of people, I think Sukanya and Vijay ji has something to say.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Ankit. Hi, Mohita, and
Hi.
everybody. Actually, Ankit and I actually have worked before together, and on this, I have seen him living the kind of minimalistic lifestyle that he's actually talking about. And but I do have one sort of a query. If you talk about let's say technology, right, which is very important. We are having this Zoom meeting, and all of these changes that we're trying to make is a lot of based on technology, because if, let's say, the internet is down, then we are in a way very handicapped in that manner, right? So this is another, so not just the materialistic consumption, but does this also comes under the purview of consumption if we are so reliant on it? And if that is not there, how does this minimalistic thing is can cope up with that? First thing first. And second, like all this technological advancement actually came because of this need for consumption, need to make things easier in a way. So do you think that that goes hand in hand? And where do you draw the line in making it a reasonable consumption and going overboard, especially when it comes to technology?
Okay. So yeah, hi Sukanya. It's we are meeting here actually. It's very interesting. We have been not talking so much on the phone otherwise. But
Yeah.
yeah, and Sukanya is in Nagaland, and probably she has a lot of internet issues there.
Yes, of course.
So her question is okay. So I think so. I have had a background of technology, and not just in terms of career, but I think I've spent a large part of my childhood coding and stealing Wi-Fi's from other people when it used to be very costly internet. And uh, I think technology, I have always grown up believing that technology is a very, very big invention or a good discovery, which can connect people together, and which is doing that right now. I mean, we can see that we are some bunch of people, and many people want that kind of community to understand each other and everything. Now, when it comes to consumption, I think consumption isn't about the material we are consuming. So it could be internet, it could be water, it could be food, it could be McDonald's, it could be any electronics. Consumption is linked indirectly with our need for validation in some senses, in the sense that when we are, I think last time I mentioned this in just part of the dialogue, that you will often notice that the more we are joyful, we don't care much about, you know, where we are, what we are eating, what kind of things are happening, because we are in that joyful state. And you know, many times people in nature, when we say, I mean, it's very ironic for me that we have to nowadays say that we have to go in nature. I mean, it should have been that, you know, we are always in nature, but now unfortunately we have to say this separately. So when we are in nature, we notice that we are in a joyful state, and that time we hardly think about internet. And I would say internet is always available, in the sense that the internet of the universe is a larger internet which most of the people don't know about or don't tap into. But we think about our creation internet, which is also good. So the consumption is linked with the idea of linked with our joyfulness or lack of joyfulness. So the more we are fulfilled within ourselves, so internet is going to be there, all electronics are going to be there, all cars are going to be there. Unfortunately, we are in a state where we cannot stop these production. That is, I'm not saying that we have to now fight and revolt and change the system. Now, that change the system isn't going to happen in this kind of a dialogue, obviously. But what can happen is, when you are able to connect with yourself, or when and that connection can come through anything. It could come by for some people it could come by living outdoors. For some people it could come by traveling. Like for me, a lot of that comes from traveling. For some people it could come from talking like this. For some people it could be meditation, you know, or maybe vipassana, anything. Whatever gives you that connection, if you are able to find it, more or less, then slowly this becomes a tool for you to get your work done, and you don't feel attached with it. Like, you know, for some people, if I don't have the phone 2 minutes in my hand, I get restless. Like, you must have noticed this feeling. Now that is happening because somewhere or the other it is becoming, you know, so much like you would say, you are attached with this so much. So why the state of attachment is coming? So you have to just notice that. So I don't say internet is good or bad. I think our intentions will make it good or bad, you know. So right now we are using the internet for a good intention, with a good intention. Internet can be used in for any intention. So let's channelize our own energy and feel or maybe see what makes us feel calm. And we will see slowly that the internet, the technology, or any gadget will only make sense to us when there is a purpose for it. You know, when we have to, let's say, send an email, we will use the phone, you know, no problem. But we will not become addicted to it, you know, that addiction state which comes, right, where we are addicted to Maggie, or we are, I mean, I was addicted to pizza. I used to eat 3 pizzas in a day. And a lot of such things have had myself, actually. And even today, I don't claim actually this godliness. I have a lot of imperfections, and I'm just trying to see what all imperfections are there, and what all those imperfections, how those imperfections are actually affecting me. So I'm constantly observing them, and I'm hopeful that I will be able to go closer to myself. When I say go closer to myself, it is that journey from ego to nothing. That's what I mean.
I have a follow-up question.
Okay.
So as you've mentioned that in case of one extreme, other extreme emerges. So when you talk about being closer to ourselves, going back to like the minimalistic, the lifestyle that you're talking about. So do you think it is possible for the other extreme to get subdued if enough of these conversation goes on? First thing first. And like secondly, like as I've already mentioned, like this invention of these things came about because of the consumption, because of the ease of things that we wanted in our lives. So when you talk about like the minimalistic world, let's say a world view of it, how do you imagine that world to function?
Okay. Yeah. So I think the idea for me is not to create a minimalistic world. I think the entire journey, when I also started, I was very much focused on seeing that, something will happen outside. And slowly, what I understood or started realizing was that what I'm doing outside is a large projection of what I am having inside, but also because if we are working in the community, uh, very often we see that the community does certain things, so it is their own state of being also. So when it is about ourselves personally, so if somebody is in their personal journey, it is not easy, but it is simple to understand that I can do some things and I can understand some things. But when it comes to community and talking about changing landscapes and outer world, it's a large journey, because the way we move from uh, we as a society, we move from being very very connected as tribes to what I see today as a lot of disputes within the tribe, a lot of greed prepping up within the tribe, a lot of lack of consciousness within the tribe. But the journey has to be also done in that context. I mean, it is so radical changes and all. I don't think I would personally look for that, because radical very often doesn't change the core being. It's like I slap somebody and force them to give their phone to me. That's like radically getting the phone. But what I did in the process was created an understanding in the other person's head that this is a way to get anybody's phone or any other material. So what I'm passing as my action is very subtle messages, like that. So a lot of and this I started noticing, when I actually changed my own pattern in certain ways, of course not entirely. I started noticing that the world around me started changing according to that. So um it it did not matter what I did outside, but if I changed a little bit of my lifestyle, I started getting people according to that. And I don't know, it you can say it's how life is designed to be, but I don't know if I have answered part of your or full answered your question or not. um, is there some I think Vijayji was there. Okay, he's not there. um, Hello.
I think Vijay left in
Okay.
between, so he's not here.
So if
Thanks. I think it was lovely to hear your thoughts on this. Yeah, please go ahead.
no, I just thought if Sukanya, was that do you have another follow-up question, or is it like or anybody else can also add to this? I think, did it become too heavy for everybody for once? So I remember that somebody asked me this question, that how do you, like or actually knowledge. How do you know, or how do you understand that if you have a lot of knowledge, or if you have to assess a person? Let's say if I see a person and and I can say that, I mean, of course, I don't want to understand. I mean, I don't want to go into degrees and all that, but I mean knowledge. Knowledge is a pure form of knowledge. How do you look at a person and say that this person is knowledgeable? So I was reflecting on many of my what I saw constantly is that the most knowledgeable people always had a lot of humor around them, because knowledge in reality sets you free, and it sets you free in the space of, like, you can't be serious, like you like to have fun, not making fun of others, but in the space from, like, the joyful state, I mean to say. So a lot of our so if you look at a lot of rural life people who we call very sad, in the sense poverty is there, and poor life conditions and everything. But if you actually are able to sit with them in in their own space, then you will see that there is a lot of joy. I mean, if you don't come from that outer space like an NGO and then ask them that what kind of problems do you live in, of course not that, but if you live being in that space, then you see that there's a lot of joy floating around. So I see a lot of people who maybe who we call as, we don't know their names, we call them laborers, we call them farmers sometimes. I see a lot of joyfulness state most of the time, except for certain times. So there's a lot of knowledge, that knowledge which is deeper than what we sell today as knowledge. Yeah. So yeah, so now we can, I think, Mohita, would you like to take people to the next segment? Or
Sure. If there are any more questions that we have for Ankit, we can take them up now, or we can go into a reflection. We can all share our thoughts on some questions. So if you do have any questions, please, this is the time.
I think there was a question for reflection, right? Which
Sure.
you had shared with me originally, which is what prevents us from living. Yeah, this one. Do you want to speak that out?
Sure. So I'm sharing two questions that we can reflect on together and share our thoughts about. So I'm inviting everyone to either take a minute, let us reflect on this, and we can either write on chat, or we can just come like open our cameras and share our thoughts more around this. So yeah. So requesting you, Ankit, to start, and maybe then you can tag someone within the group and we can hear their thoughts on these. You're on mute.
Yeah, I think in a way I've already
You have.
answered this. Yeah, just to summarize, I would say that
Or you can share your own practices too. Any
practical, yeah. See, first of all, the practices are very, very practical, which I have. I think I allow myself to not form a habit. Of course, when I do, it sits on me, and then I have to constantly live with that habit. A new habit. Like for example, right now I'm in Dehradun. So the idea in Dehradun is that I have to eat a very breakfast. But when I'm in the village in Assam, there is no breakfast. It is like morning you have like a full meal. So that you eat like rice and everything. Then you again eat in the day rice. Then again in the night you eat rice. Now when I come here, suddenly the character of food changes because obviously, it's my parental house. So now I think one is that I allow myself to also adapt to that. Uh, wherever the food is, whatever, I allow myself to do that. When I say, and I won't say less or anything because regular house food we cannot really count in terms of consumption, but it is simple. Like it remains simple that way, more or less. Uh, the idea is not just to eat simple, but to simplify your uh, attitude towards it. The more we complicate, for example, I will eat this with this only, I cannot eat this without this. All these conditions are at least not with me. I mean, I allow myself to flow with for food anywhere. How do we differentiate? And there are a lot of other things like in terms of transportation or travel, uh, I take very regular sleeper class trains. I travel with regular buses. When I say regular, yeah, I mean it sounds as if it is such a guilt, but it is a regular in the sense it is what the masses use. Like everybody is using that kind of thing. And uh, then I actually have a certain cap on my income, which is something which is like an invention, you can say, just out of, I don't know, random invention. The cap on my income is more around putting myself in awareness of living in the present, because since 2017 I have lived a nomadic life, which means I have had no one house. I have a lot of houses, uh, and the material is in the bag. But then I had to think about money also, because when we say nomadic, we can try to put one bag above us, but we might have like a truckload of money in our account. Then you are not nomadic in totality. So what I thought was, if I have a lot of money, that would not serve the purpose. So what I did is I set a cap on income, like a monthly income limit, basically. And whatever amount comes over that, I am bound to either put it to work, because my work is in social space, so I put it in the NGO, or I give it to somebody who needs it, like for something, for education or anything. And fortunately, I don't earn that much, so my limit is never crossed. But sometimes it does, so I move the money to the NGO. So that limit need not be fixed for everybody. That also has to be understood. It can be set by yourself for your own self and can be changed. So if you feel today you need 30,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 or 5,000, you can set that limit, experiment with it, and see whether it's working for you. If it works for you, then you will never have the pressure to earn more, because most of us are living in this pressure that, oh, next job I have to earn more, next job I have to earn more, next job I have to earn more. And this pressure never goes away, because we see that we live in a world of inflation, which is true in facts. But if our needs come down, then that inflation will never affect us. So whatever amount of inflation happens, I try to reduce my needs according to that. So inflation has not affected me since 4 years now almost. And my income limit has not changed since 4 years. In fact, I have been reducing my income with time. And I want to go to the minimum, but then the railways and the buses charge me, so I cannot help it. And that is another practical thing I could suggest, which I do. Yeah. I think the other question is also answered partly in that, differentiate between needs and wants, kind of.
Yes, I think you talked about being more conscious of the inner state.
Yeah.
You can tag someone, Ankit. We
I
can
have a
figure-
question.
Oh,
Okay.
somebody. Okay.
Okay. Ankit, I was just wondering,
Mhm.
you're talking about this nomadic lifestyle, which requires you to move around quite a bit. I'm sure that there are certain social aspects which get affected as a result of it, like, staying away from family, staying away from friends. So can you shed some light about, those kind of challenges when it comes to this kind of a lifestyle?
Okay. So when I began the nomadic journey in 2017, I started saying that I have no house, in the sense neither on rent. So the parental house is parents because I cannot sell it off. So that remains. But I don't have a house on rent. And then I started saying that I have no house. Moving around, I lived with a lot of people, and it is not a foundation for me to move, like in the sense that people ask me to live with them for 6 months, 8 months, 1 year, or even more actually at times. But I move because I want to move. And then I started slowly realizing, and my dialogue changed actually, and I started saying that I have a lot of houses. So it became from I have no house to I have a lot of houses. What I also realized in this process is that we often say, or it is in our part of our cultural heritage, that the world is one family. So then I saw that all these places I'm going to, it's actually like my families. So when I have my family everywhere, then I really don't have that state where where I see it in that, in my inner self doesn't process it as if I am actually away from family, because wherever I am, actually I'm in my family and friends also, with the same principle. Like, when I'm in the train, I start saying that, okay, this is my house. So then I actually start getting the train repaired. I have done it many times by calling the railway people to repair the fan, the window, and many other things. And then those people around me become my friends. And many times I've been to their houses also. The people I meet in the train, I go to their houses within 6 months, more or less. I mean, without the COVID pandemic in place, but otherwise, yeah. So I think it has not really affected me because of this view particularly. But yes, I am aware that my parents are there. So like, for example, I've spent this time I've spent almost 2 months more in Dehradun, 2 months I think. And I'm living here, they also move. So probably because the way we conduct our lifestyle, others also learn from that. So if I was very much, I would say, attached with them, then they would have responded in a certain manner. But because of my freeness or freedom, my parents feel that wherever I am, I've lived without 3 months for phone during walks many times. They are not scared, because they think that everywhere is a family. I mean, they've started kind of believing it. Of course, they don't say it, but they think that, okay, he must be at some house eating somewhere. They don't think that I won't get food. They don't think that I would be in a dangerous situation. They don't actually, they have seen me walking and without phone for months many times. So it has become very normal to them. When I say that I'm going to off for 2 months walk or cycle, they're like, oh, it's so cold. Do you want to go now? Matlab, that is their question. It's not as if, why are you going? So, yeah, I think.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, I'd like to tag Jasmeet. Would you like to share something or where you are?
Vita, there's a lot of background sound where I am. And more than that, I think I'm just really appreciating the conversation with Ankit, and I don't really have anything specific to share.
Sure. If you have any thoughts on the questions, maybe you can write on the chat. We'd like to read. Bhavini, anything from your side?
Hi, oh, I can switch on my video. No question from me. I've just been listening to what Ankit has to say, and it's been quite interesting. So just like, I would say it's like a learning and insightful conversation for me.
Any thoughts on the questions? Any reflections on how it is for you? You also run a
what was
fitness
very
brand.
interesting was, I would say, what was, sorry, I didn't hear you, Mohita.
So I've shared some questions, and any thoughts
Yeah.
or reflections on the questions? Yeah, you were saying something else, I think.
I said I really liked the conversation on minimalism because yeah, I do like run a conscious clothing brand, and it's always sort of like I mean it's very it seems very interesting to say that, hey, I co-founded a conscious clothing brand with a friend of mine, but having said that, it has massive challenges, and especially to do with minimalism, because by the end I'm in the consumer business. Like, I mean, I am asking people to consume a product of mine that I'm creating. So I would say it's always like a personal battle on the inside of like, where I feel like, okay, this is something I don't wish to practice, but at the same time, you know, I'm also preaching people to own. So I like, that was a very interesting bit for me. But apart from that, no question. I think the only sort of thought, or I would like to ask Ankit, would be that, again, to do with minimalism itself. If this is like a sort of a personal problem, but if there is, you know, if like for me, if I start, I feel I kind of practice minimalism. I can't say I'm there yet, but yes, like in small things, in terms of like, I think I'm big on hand-me-down clothing. Like I'm a person who doesn't mind if somebody like in my family or friends, somebody has to, like, you know, I've worn this many a times, but I don't like it anymore, so they give it to me. I'm quite appreciative of that versus wanting to buy something, and I just sort of apply it in like fast fashion versus slow fashion. But what I wanted to ask you, from like say a person who runs a clothing brand, that if I had to apply it in my field of work in something like minimalism, I like, what would your thoughts be to that? Like, especially the clothing clothing line, which is already so saturated, where there are already enough fast and slow fashion brands. How would you sort of suggest say a startup, or say I'm like, ours is a 2-year-old brand, what would you suggest we practice in small? There could be just small suggestions, but something we could apply. Can't hear you, Ankit.
Yeah, thank you for asking. That question needs a lot of reflection. I think answering it in a quick manner would be a little. There could be a lot of elements, right? You have had your own journey of seeing things, and that's where you decided to get into something. and to negate that journey with my opinion would not be very nice. um, at the same time, I can say that uh, you know, maybe going into the history very often helps. Like I have studied, and I do study history a lot because of my interest. It really helps me answer a lot of questions, because what used to exist and what was changed by whom and when, and what used to be the characteristics of our, for example, you can read history related to uh, you know, handlooms and many other things. For example, now where I live in Assam and all, and this is very interesting to meet you here, because I see a lot of, wherever I work, I see a lot of hand woven clothes and everything, which lacks marketing. It is made by women in the villages in their households, you know, not as an industry, but like a skill passed generation to generation. And um, it is definitely a challenge, because anything which you know, the, as I said in the beginning itself, that the structure of industry itself is like that. So we are only left with trying to balance things in that position, because there is definitely, as you mentioned, there's a lot of over existence of, you know, things. And many times we as NGOs have to really find clothes for people who have no clothing during the winters particularly. So it's a very interesting thing to see, you know, at one point of time there is so much in the shelves, and which is not being able to, like, you know, nobody is buying it, for example, or maybe it is a lot of supply, and you know, maybe people are left with almost no clothes or very few clothes during the winters to tend for themselves. So the structure of our society, when you try to view it only from the angle of let's say a big city, then the answers probably will be very difficult to get. So if you have that intuition or coming up for you, I would only, like, as a suggestion, can say that, you know, without approaching with, I mean, don't approach with the guilt you have. I think guilt doesn't help. But your intention is good, and that is valuable. So, you know, guilt kind of puts you in a very back foot. So if you can approach without the guilt and with a good intention to learn, with the open mind and open heart, then you can look into large history, and not just assuming that you haven't done it, not just into the city landscape, but what are people in the villages doing, and large number of people are there. How is that happening? Maybe integrate that in your work, which will at least make you, maybe which will connect something for you in a different way. Maybe to not focus on mm, just, I don't know. I'm That's why I said it's a very small time to answer for this, but I'm just assuming a lot of things here. Okay, just to share that. Okay, maybe you can look into those aspects of clothing which were there, and why they died off, or what happened exactly. Of course, there is a large history connected to British also, which is very much in the open now, thanks to Sashi Tharoor and many other people like that. So
No, thank you. You're right. So that's why, like, sort of our foundation is that we don't do synthetic fibers. We don't use like viscose. Basically, our idea is to tell people that quality is what will last. So the more, like, the better the quality of a fabric you buy, the longer it will stay with you. The like worse the quality, or like the cheaper the quality, it will die off. So the our sort of idea is to tell people that, you know, we are selling you clothing which has good quality, so that it sustains like longer, and hence maybe you don't need to buy as much. But yeah, it's definitely, like, it's been interesting. But yeah, I do, like, thank you for, like, I mean, I do agree. I never looked at it from the history point, but that's a good that could be something that could be a learning for me for sure.
welcome.
Thanks. I think we are ahead of, like, we are past 6:30. So before closing, I'll just want Manushi, if you are here and if you'd like to share something which is coming to you. Um, I guess Manushi is your friend, Ankit. I think she's busy. So for me, I think what stood out is again the way you questioned fundamentally, and I'm left with that thought of how can we be more aware of our inner, and while we are craving for something, and how can we be more present to our own selves. And I really appreciate the idea of everywhere you go you make a family, so I'm going to stay with that and see how how I can
Yeah.
be with it more. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ankit. Is there something you would like to share before we close? And we'll close with a minute of silence.
I think a lot of things I've already said, in the sense that I feel in terms of, um, journey of life, I'm still exploring. So I don't have the characteristic of an expert. Uh, it's just that some of the life events are giving me that possibility to go deeper in the journey. Um, and the methodology or the path. Uh, so even if it is, for example, to a vegan talking to a hardcore non-vegetarian, or a minimalist talking to a like a overconsumption. I don't know how to say that, but a person with a lot of consumption. I think these things are not separate. They are part of our own characteristic, our own. So we dwell in these. So when there is a very good old thing in some scripture. I don't know. I can't quote from things because I don't know where it comes from, but I know that it is there. That there is this idea of oneness versus duality,
Hmm.
and the idea of oneness is basically nothing but to one is to feel one with ourselves, and at the same time to be able to see everything as one.
Hmm.
And and contradicting, and many times we are very often in that duality, and the duality actually stops us more often than anything. It stops us from completely being ourselves. It is also a big hindrance to uh, completing our goals on earth. So uh, and love and compassion and kindness, if we add to that, because these English words are not very complete in themselves, so I'm just adding. So love and compassion and kindness could be the pathways to open those channels of oneness. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and all the best. I think we all will be in touch for your journey. Sure, Manushi. Manushi, we are doing this as a regular community circle. So in case you'd like to be part of these, you can let me know your number and I'll invite you to more such. Okay. Let's just take a minute of silence before we can close. Just close our eyes and Thank you. Thank you for being part of today, and thank you so much, Ankit. It was lovely having you. And
Thank you, Ankit.
bye. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.